professionals. So today we are going to be talking about cognitive health across the lifespan. In particular, we're going to be discussing the brain health innovation ecosystem and the potential of interactive technologies and personalized interventions. My name is Dapo Tomori. I lead medical affairs organization at Akil Interactive. For those of you who may not know about Akil Interactive, Akil is a cognitive health company that develops digital therapeutics delivered through an interactive video game experience. We believe that the patient experience in healthcare matters and that we can reimagine how treatment interventions are designed and delivered. By way of background with respect to this panel, a couple of points I wanted to make as to why we're having this conversation. The prevalence of cognitive dysfunction, as everybody knows, has been increasing globally across the lifespan with significant personal and societal costs. Beyond the obvious outsized contribution of Alzheimer's disease due to an aging population, we're seeing alarming increases in the prevalence of depression and anxiety in youth, which has only been exacerbated by the COVID-19 pandemic. A recent JAMA article also noted high rates of persistent cognitive dysfunction in long COVID cases. The pandemic, of course, has revealed huge divides and disparities in our society, in an increasingly volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous world. So the panel is going to address a couple of convergent themes. We're going to take on questions like, how can we preserve and maintain brain capital in a VUCA world, volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous? What role could brain health technologies potentially play in harnessing neuroplasticity? And then, of course, what are the opportunities for multi-stakeholder systems approaches in global brain health innovation? Our panelists will discuss their expertise across the lifespan, as well as systems and, excuse me, as well as a systems and policy approach. So I'm delighted to briefly introduce the panelists in the order in which they will be presenting. Harris Ayer is a psychiatrist and neuroscientist. He's the co-founder and president and chief medical officer of Prodeo Institute. Prodeo Institute is a think tank in partnership with OECD, the Gates Ventures, and some corporate partners seeking to incubate new approaches to brain-based policy, economic, and investments. He's going to discuss brain capital and brain health technologies in a global innovation and knowledge economy. He will be followed by Sandeep Vaishnavi. Sandeep is also a psychiatrist and neuroscientist. He is a faculty member at the Duke Institute for Brain Sciences and medical director at the MindPath Care Center's brain stimulation program. Sandeep is going to be discussing neuroplasticity and cognitive resilience as foundational principles and he'll share his perspective as a clinician in the trenches with respect to implementation of brain health technologies. And then Kate Fitzgerald, who is also a psychiatrist. This is a professor of psychiatry at Columbia, recently moved to Columbia from Michigan. Her research focuses on imaging and functional biomarkers in pediatric anxiety and depression, as well as novel therapeutic interventions. She'll discuss her work using health technology interventions in youth and with anxiety disorders. And then Pat Arian, who may be familiar to many of you, she's a clinical psychologist and professor in the psychiatry department at University of Washington, where she's also the director of the NIMH-funded Alacrity Center and the Creative Lab. She's a leading expert in the use of technology to conduct clinical trials to scale access and treatment interventions. She's going to be discussing interactive technologies in late life neuropsychiatric conditions. And finally, Elena Cañedas, my colleague at Akil Interactive. She's a cognitive psychologist and Scientific Affairs Lead at Akili Interactive. She'll give us a peek into her world and into her role at Akili, where she works very closely with the product development team as well as the game design folks. Some housekeeping rules. I believe that we're going to be taking questions in the Slack channel. So with that, I will pass it on to Harris.